Welcome everyone to QB Power Hour. Today is September 6, 2018, and today's episode is What's New in QuickBooks 2019. We'll talk briefly about the webinar series, the sponsors, and the host. We'll talk about the CPE process, and then we'll spend most of the webinar, about 50 minutes or so, talking about the new features in QuickBooks 2019. We do webinars, just in case you're new here, we do webinars every 2 weeks generally, or every 2 Thursdays. The next episode will be on September 20th, and we're going to be talking about QuickBooks Online for Real Estate Part 2. We did Part 1 about a month ago, and this time we'll talk about real estate investors or lessors. These are the folks that own the real estate and rent it out. So we'll be talking about using QuickBooks Online and some tips and tricks around that, and I'm lining up a really good guest speaker that's an expert in the subject matter to help us as well. And then the next one afterward will be October 4th. We don't have a topic yet, so that would be to be announced. We generally cover about 50% desktop, 50% online. This particular episode will be 100% QuickBooks Desktop. So if this doesn't interest you, because you only use QuickBooks Online and it doesn't matter to you, whatever happens to be, then you can good time to jump ship. So Michelle Long, my co-host, she's not with us today, but she'll probably be on the next one or the one afterwards. She's the owner of Long for Success, author of a couple of QuickBooks and sort of bookkeeping related books. Check them out on Amazon. And you can check out also her LinkedIn group that has over 160,000 members called Successful QuickBooks Consultants. By myself, I live and work in the Miami area. I teach QuickBooks in my own classroom. I also have other team members that teach QuickBooks in our own classroom here in Miami. And I'm a member of the Intuit Trainer Writer Network, so you'll find me creating a lot of content related to QuickBooks. There's my email and my Twitter handle if you want to contact me directly. About the CPE, so if you're a CPA or a certified bookkeeper that needs a CPE certificate, you must attend the webinar live. So if you're watching a recording on YouTube, that wouldn't count. You have to be logged in for at least 50 minutes, answer 3 out of the 4 polling questions we normally ask, and you will get your certificate emailed to you within about 3 weeks. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Avalara, who's a silver sponsor, the most popular app and service for managing multi-state sales tax compliance done right. Check them out, avalara.com. Okay, so let's start with what I would call the pretty big shocking news, which is there is a QuickBooks Mac 2019, and this is kind of a big deal. And I will get into so first let me start by saying that this episode is not sponsored by Intuit. This content was put together by me using some of the Intuit content, but I'm going to give you some of my personal opinion about what's going on with the new release. So this is 100% just Hector doing this. I'm both excited and disappointed about the 2019 version being released. I'm excited because for those folks, heavy Mac users that were complaining about their version going away, then at least there's something to show them that, hey, look, QuickBooks still cares about Mac users. What I'm disappointed about is that I told many people to get off QuickBooks Mac because it was not going to be supported anymore, or because it got discontinued. And I pretty much asserted that to most of my clients that were on Mac. I said, you know what, it's going away, it's gone. So the fact that it's coming back, it's kind of a slap in the face to those folks that were pretty sure about that. The other thing that I kind of bummed out about is there's one more version of QuickBooks that I have to keep track of what it does and it doesn't do. So now, so I was kind of happy that most Mac users have moved to QuickBooks Online, make it easy. So we'll see how it goes. So I'm sure that some Mac users will appreciate that very much. Most accountants are not Mac users, so for accountants, most accountants probably don't even care about the Mac version anyway. It's more headaches than anything else, having to convert it to the PC version and that sort of thing. Anyway, so let's talk about the new features that are coming out on the Mac version. There's going to be iCloud compatibility, which means that if the file is saved in a folder that is syncing with iCloud, technically you can have another Mac that opens the file, and it kind of acts like a Dropbox, Qbox type of application where you can have 2 completely separate QuickBooks Macs, 2 laptops, or 1 desktop and 1 laptop. And through the iCloud sharing, you can toggle back and forth on who uses the file. So technically it's sort of like a semi hosting type of application, and iCloud is really fast, really responsive. This is all part of the Apple ecosystem. So QuickBooks is compatible with that, and it will actually warn you if the file is open on the other side. So that's actually pretty neat, exclusive to the Mac version. They also added the reconciliation discrepancy report, something that we've had in the desktop Windows version for like 10 years or so. They're going to add the past due stamp, which is something that they added new in QuickBooks 2018, where if an invoice is past due, it will print out past due on it. And also keep track of emails that you send to customers, like estimates and invoices, or purchase orders to vendors. So keep track of when you send those emails, something that, again, we've had on the PC version. So I'm not going to demonstrate the Mac version. I'm just going to show them right there on the screen. Now let's jump into the featured content here, which is all the new features in all across QuickBooks desktop versions. So whether you're working with Pro, Premier, Accountant, or Enterprise, the ones that I'm about to list are going to be equal across all the Windows desktop versions. Okay, so all these features will work in all the versions regardless. So let's start with there's essentially what I call 3 new features and 4 enhancements. So the 3 new features is there's a new invoice status tracker. There's the ability to transfer credits within a customer across jobs. And there's a new condense option that doesn't remove transactions, but removes the audit trail. And some people would say that's great for big files where they don't want to lose transaction history, but they want to make the file smaller. Or it could be good to maybe give it to someone that's auditing the books or something like that, that you only want them to see the result, not the audit trail, because the audit trail could be a bit confusing, that sort of thing. So that's just it's pretty neat that they added that, just kind of simplifying the condense option so people don't lose information but can still shrink the file size. The 4 enhancements are, there's a little bit of an enhanced workflow whenever you create a check that has an open bill, in the way QuickBooks instructs you on how to pay that bill. In the past, QuickBooks Desktop has been just really cookie about that. So that would be good, and we'll show that. There's also a new option to show inactive items in the inventory evaluation report. That's actually extremely important, and it seems like a trivial thing, but it's actually a really big deal, especially for anyone that does inventory type of work in QuickBooks. There's an improved IIF import feature that has error correction and error log. So I will tell you if the files didn't import and which lines didn't import and why. And there's also an enhanced sick and vacation pay tracking that warns the user when the person doesn't have enough sick or vacation to apply to a paycheck. So that's really for the payroll folks. So let's start with the invoice tracker. So this is actually probably the biggest of all the features in terms of visuals and functionality. So every single invoice is now going to have sort of a quick access history, letting you know what the history of that transaction is. So let me show you. Let me open up QuickBooks here, and I'll go ahead and open an invoice. Okay, so I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, and I'll create a new invoice here for this customer, and I'll select any item code here. We'll make this $200. And we'll go ahead and click on save. So the minute the invoice is saved, now you're going to see a history button here that you can click on. So it basically opens it, and it tells you exactly when the invoice was created. Now, these are things that you can look in the audit log, but I actually find it really cool that we know the actual original creation date. Okay. Then when you actually email it to a customer, so let me go ahead and invoice it. I'm going to send the invoice to my email. And I'm going to click on send. Okay, so this uses the regular email feature. I can actually now go into history, and now we have a new piece of information here that tells me, who received, who the email was sent to. So the email was sent to Jose, whoever the contact person in the company is. So now I'm going to go into my phone here. And I'm going to go ahead and read, or I'm going to go ahead and view the email itself. Because right now, as of now, it says that it was emailed, but it doesn't say it was viewed yet. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and just click on it one more time. See, it hasn't been viewed yet. So I'm gonna go ahead and open the email that's in my. I'm just basically emailed it to myself. So I'm gonna open the email that's on my phone. So I go ahead and open the email. I viewed the email. So I just viewed the email. I viewed it on my phone, and I'm gonna click on see history, and notice that immediately it tells me that it was viewed. So it immediately tells me that it's viewed. There's a little question box here that's important for you to read that says invoice is viewed every time that is open, even from your sent box. So what that means is if you go into your sent email and view the email that you sent to the customer, it will also say viewed. So it doesn't distinguish who viewed it. If the email was viewed by yourself in the sent box, or if it was viewed by the customer in their inbox. So just be very careful about that, and there's no fix for that, just because this mechanism can't do that. So that's that tracking of when it was created, when it was viewed, when it was emailed. Now, when the customer pays you, I'm going to go ahead and receive a payment, and I'm going to put a date here, a couple of days in the past, and I'll make this $150. So I'm going to just receive a partial payment pretty much. And then I'm going to click on Save and Close. And then let me just, let me see if that invoice, I'm not sure if that was applied. Okay, there you go. Let's do $50. I just want to simplify it. And let me go ahead and apply it to the invoice because I haven't done that. And I'll put this back a couple of days and hit Save and Close. So now I'm going to click on See History, and you actually see that the payment was received, and it tells you the date the payment was received. Now that's the date of the document, not the date of the day you enter the transaction. So that's a really important piece. And notice that now it says in the top, it says partially paid. Okay, so anytime we have something that's partially paid, it will say here partially paid. And then when you deposit that payment, so I'm going to go here into banking and click on Make Deposit, and I select the payment I received, and I go ahead and deposit it. I'm going to deposit this on the 8th, and then click on Save and Close. In the invoice history, it also tells you if it's been partially deposited. So that's actually pretty cool. So I'll show you partially paid, fully deposited, partially deposited. The only thing I don't like about this is I can't click on it and go to see the deposit itself. I don't like the fact that you can't do that. But I mean, it is a step, and maybe they'll add that later on. But I mean, that this history here, it's really neat. Okay. So somebody's saying, well, you can hit Control H to see the payment. That's true. So this is not new to 2019, but if you hit Control H, you get the transaction history, and then you can double click on the payment, and then you can also hit Control H and you get the deposit history, and you could click on that and get to the deposit. So there's ways to get to the deposit. My comment was I would love to have a link here and go straight to it. To me, that would be the logical thing. The other thing that I think it's missing from here, it's who did it. Like, so it would also be pretty cool, to know exactly which was the user that received the payment, or who was the user that created the invoice, or the user that. So that would be nice to have that there. From a programmer's perspective, they have limited real estate. They don't want to make it confusing. They want the tool to be useful. So I assume that's why it looks like that. So that's what the tool is. That's all it is. Let me check if there's any questions here. It says partially deposit. Okay, so yeah, so it says the word partially deposit doesn't mean that you partially deposit the payment. Partially deposited means you fully deposit the partial payment. So that's what it is. Okay. All right. So somebody's asking, will it work with Outlook? Now, I haven't tested it. So I think the nature of the question is, if I use the Outlook feature to email instead of the built-in email feature, will it work? I don't know. Honestly, I haven't done that test. If I had to guess, I would say no, that you have to use the built-in email system for it to work. I seriously don't think that it'll work with Outlook. Just the mechanism of how assuming that how QuickBooks knows that something was read, I assume it requires their own servers for that. So I would say it does not work with Outlook, but I haven't tested it, so I'm not 100% sure. So you have to use the built-in email function. And you can, whatever you use, right? If you use Gmail or Hotmail or whatever, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so that's the only really important note. And and I'm going to add some notes regarding of my own testing, just because these notes may be things that you don't see on their actual advertising. Just remember that regardless of who views the email, whether it's the sender from your send box in your Gmail, Hotmail, whatever it happens to be, or the actual viewer, it would say viewed, and it doesn't tell you who viewed it. So just like make sure that if you want to use that feature and you want it to be relevant, that you're not viewing your own emails that you're sending from your send box. Okay, now the next big feature is transferring AR credits within a customer across jobs. So let me explain what that means. So let's say, let me get out of this invoice here, and let me go into the customer center. So let's say, for example, that I have, this is a good example here. So let's say I have a customer that has an outstanding balance in one job, okay? So you notice that there's an outstanding balance on one job, and then there's an overpayment on a separate job, okay? Now you see that in the top, there's the net of the two. The problem is that traditionally, if I go into this invoice, okay, and I click on apply credits, traditionally, so this is before the 2018 upgrade, traditionally, it would not show you a payment that was applied to a different job. See, we are currently in a job called Second Home, right? That's the current job that we're working on, Second Home, and the overpayment is in a different job called Remodel. So the new feature, essentially, it's being able to view payments that are sitting on another job because you received it to the other job, but you received an overpayment, or maybe they paid you and then you avoided the invoice. Whatever situation may have cost a overpayment or a credit of accounts receivable on a different job, now you can actually see it here. So you get visibility across from it, but the key thing here is the mechanism of how it applies. So I'm going to go ahead and click on done, show you how that works. And this is the new feature here. It actually says you're about to transfer credits across jobs. So it's actually letting you know that this is something new. This is something different. This is not a normal thing. It's saying you're about to transfer credits across jobs. And it actually tells you that there's a set of journal entries. And they found out how kind of takes you to the help screen, but I'm going to show you anyway. So when I click on yes, it's important to know that it works perfectly. It works beautifully. It applies to it. But the way it applies to it is through a journal entry. Now, let me go into the chart of accounts here. And there is I'm going to go ahead and enable my inactive accounts, because by default, it will create a new account called account for credit transfer. So QuickBooks creates an other asset account called account for credit transfer. It hides it. And then inside of it, you're going to see two journal entries. You're going to see one journal entry that debits the accounts receivable, so zeroing it out. Okay, so it debits the accounts receivable in this side to AR, and then it credits to this new account credit transfer account. And notice that it uses the job, the original job where there was an overage in there. So it creates that, and it uses this account for credit transfer essentially as a bridge account. So it creates this journal entry, and then it creates a follow-up journal entry on the exact same day that is in reverse order. So now it's going to credit the accounts receivable, and it's going to add it now to the new job. So it uses a bridge account or a clearing account, the same way we have done this in the past manually, how we transfer credits in the past, but now it does it all automated. Now, the other thing I really love about this is, and this is very new, if I try to delete this and I hit OK, I get an error message that I've never seen before. I actually never seen Intuit use this language on a warning message. It says, we don't recommend doing this because it's going to mess up your balances. But the best part is it says, please ensure that it has been verified by an accountant to make sure your adjustments are correct. I've never ever seen any warning message in the entire QuickBooks ecosystem where it actually suggests the customer to don't do anything until you ask your accountant. And that deserves a clap. You know, from an accountant's perspective, that deserves a clap. Wonderful. Good job. Intuit telling customers that they need to ask an accountant for help when they're doing crazy things like deleting a journal entry that was transferring balances from one places to the next. So that's it in a nutshell. It's really not that complex. I mean, it's something that I think for most people would just think that should have been there already. That the capacity to move credits across jobs should have been there already. But it's an improvement nonetheless. And the last one, what I'm coupling into this new features category, it's when you go do a condense, you will have an option to remove the files, remove the transactions, or keep the transactions and only delete the audit trail. And I've done a couple of tests. It's between 25% to about 35% reduction in average in file size. So when you reduce a file size because you deleted the audit trail, you should have some significant improvements in performance. However, you don't get the audit trail. That means you won't know when somebody modified something or what it used to be before. You get what you get. You get no history on when those transactions were modified. So it's really up to you on whether or not that's important or not. I know for some customers it will, and some customers maybe it won't. Now, let me do a quick polling question to make sure I don't forget before I get too passionate about stuff. Let me do a quick polling question here, and there we go. I'm just going to ask this question. Would you describe yourself as a QuickBooks Desktop fan more than QuickBooks Online? Maybe a QuickBooks Online fan more than QuickBooks Desktop? Whether or not you're moderate, somewhere in the middle, or you're not a QuickBooks fan at all. And while you answer that polling question, let's see if there's any questions. There's a lot of questions about that journal entry with the transfers. I wonder if I can even get to all those questions. Let me see. Okay, so it says Renee is asking, once I do the transfers of credits, do I still need to manually apply them to the invoice? The answer is no. The mechanism automatically applies it to the invoice. It automatically creates the transaction and also applies it. Okay. Let's see. Somebody says the polling question should have an option that you're 50-50. No, you have to choose one. If you have to pick one, you have to choose one. You have to choose one. Let's see. Lorraine is asking, did they add the batch journal entry feature? No, there's no batch journal entry feature. I wish I would have been jumping out of my seat already out of excitement, but no. Let's see. Somebody says, are there dividing dates for the audit trail removal? So could I only remove audit trail for transactions of a certain date? No, Rhonda, it's all or none. You either delete the entire audit trail or not. So there's no date split for that. Is there a way to print or save the audit trail before the condense is done? So you would have to run the audit trail report and print it, and that's going to be like thousands of pages. So not sure. Is this available in the Canadian version? Melissa, I have a slide that tells you what's available in the Canadian version and the UK version, so I'll show you that in a couple of slides. Let me see. Somebody says, Hector, did you get your YouTube channel restored? The answer is yes. I got my YouTube channel back. I don't know what happened, but it happened. Let's see. What does this thing do to the AR aging report? So it doesn't do anything. Well, no, actually. So what it does is it marks that AR paid, or it closes the loop on the AR based on the date that you did the transaction. So that's the answer on the AR report. So that's what I would do. It would mark that negative AR paid, or zero it out as of the date that you did the transaction, because that's the date of the journal entry. Okay, could you transfer credits across customers? The answer is no. It only can do it across jobs, not customers. Okay, I think those are the questions I can answer. So let me go ahead and close the polling question. Thank you for that. Just in case you were wondering what the results were, we'll share that real quick. So we have a lot more QuickBooks Desktop fans than QuickBooks Online fans. Now, does that mean that that's a good sample size? Because today's feature was all about QuickBooks Desktop, or not? I really don't know. But this results show, and that we had like 600 answers. So this shows that we still have a lot more QuickBooks Desktop fans than QuickBooks Online fans. Okay, so let's talk about the enhanced check to bill pay workflow. So the way this works is, and you will have to kind of like try to remember, before 2019, so in 2018, this screen, the buttons were flipped. The blue highlighted was write your check, and the part that wasn't highlighted was to go to pay bills. And this happens whenever we have an outstanding bill and we attempt to write a check for it. So let me show you what that means. So let me go and I'm going to go ahead and close out of the invoice. I'm going to go ahead and create a quick bill here. So I'll create a bill for, let me do a new vendor, make it easier. Let's do Comcast. So we'll create a new vendor, Comcast, and we'll make this, let's say $500. And I'm gonna go ahead and click save and close. So I created a bill for a vendor and I want to save and close. If I try to create a check, and this is a common error that sort of like the mortal QuickBooks users commit, not the accountants, not the power users, is try to write a check to pay a bill instead of going to the pay bill window. So if I actually put the vendor's name, you get this warning message that says, hey, are you sure this is a good idea that you want to write a check? You should really use the bill pay feature because there's an open bill. The changes this year is that the part that's highlighted is go to pay bills, and before continue to write your check was what was highlighted. So they kind of changed the script and they're pushing the user to pay the bills instead of writing the check. Now, the other kind of thing that they added to the workflow here is when you click on go to pay bills, the one thing that it does proactively is add the filter to the vendor here, right? So it makes it just much easier for you to deal with bills, because before 2019, without that filter, you would go into this screen, it would have a whole bunch of bills, and most users get intimidated by it and say, no, screw it. Let me get out of this. Let me just write the check as I was planning to, because I don't understand what's going on. But remember, if you're a non-accountant, not power user, and you come in here and you pick the vendor's name, and it tells you, hey, there's an outstanding bill, and it's showing you the outstanding bill, and you're like, okay, that makes total sense. That's what I want to pay. And you go to pay bills, and it filters it down to the vendor level. You have a much higher propensity to follow through, select the bill, and use the pay bills feature instead of the write check feature. So I really like it. At first I thought it was like a big nothing, but now I'm thinking kind of like not from a power user perspective, from a standard end user. I think the workflow it's a lot better. So I think it's definitely an improvement. Now this is the other one, show inactive items in inventory valuation. Now this is tricky because most people would think that this sounds like a real trivial thing. Like, okay, why is this important? Why is this important? Who cares about inactive items in a inventory report? But let me tell you what it is. So let me go into the balance sheet, and I'll show you something. I'm going to go into the balance sheet, and I'm going to click here all, and I want you to look at our inventory asset number. Okay, so our inventory asset number is 30,698.28. Let's look at that one more time. Let's highlight that, 30,698.28. Now, most people, when they look at that, they want to say, hey, how does that number constructed? Like, where does that number come from? So normally what we would do is we go to an inventory valuation report, and this inventory valuation report is supposed to tell me the exact same number that I'm seeing on the balance sheet. Now, right now, my inventory valuation report, it's saying that I only have $14 in inventory. Okay. Now, before the 2019 update, 2018 and older, that's it. You had to, that's the number that you had to take. You couldn't do anything about it. And the challenge with this is that there are actually items in my item list that have been marked inactive, and they still have a running balance. And remember, most non-power users don't pay attention to that stuff. So I'm going to go into my item list here and notice that I only have a few items. If I click on include inactive, we can see inventory parts that actually have a quantity on hand. Now, I shouldn't have marked these inactive in the first place, Okay, but that's a different story, right? Like most end users don't pay attention to those things. So if you see any quantity on hand, so we have any quantity of inventory in an item that has been marked inactive, notice I have a little checkbox here, they're automatically going to drop off that inventory report. So I have to manually, traditionally before the 2019 upgrade, I had to manually go in there and mark them active. So I have to go into each one and mark them active. Where's my, let's go to edit. I'm not sure where they're showing. Not sure why I can't mark them active, but for some reason it's grayed out. But you would have to go into each one and mark it active. I don't know why it's preventing me from do so. Maybe something, maybe I'm doing something wrong here. But normally you have to go into each one and mark it active. In order to do that, something's cookie with my software. It's not letting me do so. But that's what you have to do manually. And then once you go into this report, they would show up as you mark them active. But there's the new feature is having this checkbox here that says show inactive inventory items, and I can click on this checkbox and it will recalculate and show me the new inventory asset value. Now, when I was testing this was blowing my mind because I couldn't understand why it wasn't just working out right, and I detected an error on the R1 release, and I'm about to tell you because it's one of those big gotchas. So the engineering team did a great job. They got this checkbox working. It shows me all the inactive items, but notice that there's a difference in the calculation. That's 28,000 and 30,000. I had to do some research to figure out why there's a difference. Well, it turns out that this feature marks it shows you the inactive items, but it doesn't show you the inactive inventory assembly. So somewhere in the development process, they completely missed the memo that inventory assemblies also affect your inventory assets. So it was this item that was, let me just double click here. So we had this item here that was an inventory assembly. I'm going to go ahead and activate this one. So unfortunately for the R1 release, this feature kind of works, but you have to, the inventory assemblies. So if you have any inventory assemblies that are marked inactive, those for sure you're going to have to mark active, because this report it pretty much ignores inventory assembly. So I think they went in a great direction here. I think they missed it, but I think it was just a human mistake. I already emailed the development team. It wouldn't surprise me that on the next release they either add a second checkbox up here that says show inactive inventory assemblies, or that somehow that checkbox includes both. But I think it was important to let you know of that. The feature is great, by the way, because if anyone's ever done inventory type of consulting with QuickBooks, they've gone through that frustration of having the inventory valuation report never matches the balance sheet because people mark active items inactive. Now, the other thing that should be interesting about this is, hopefully it'll work. If I grab any items that actually have the inventory items that are showing quantity on hand. So if you look at this one, I have 10 of these in stock. If I actually make these inactive, if I click on make inactive, I now get a warning. So this is also part of the new feature. You get a warning saying, hold on, you shouldn't do this. This item should be 0 before you make it inactive. So it's kind of, it's nice because it's kind of warning you about it. Now we know that most end users say, yeah, okay, whatever. And they just click OK and ignore the whole thing. But at least, they're making an attempt to let you know, hey, this is really going to be an issue anyway. So that's the new feature in a nutshell. You got the checkbox. It enables the inactive inventory items, so you don't have to activate each one in order to see the correct report, and it warns the user if you're making that inactive. So again, my note is the checkbox ignores inventory assembly, so hopefully they'll fix that on the next releases. All right, so let's do another polling question. I want to make sure that we don't miss a beat here. We've done 2 polling questions so far. Let's do this one. Have you used QuickBooks 2019 yet? So I'm going to assume there's going to be a really small group because this literally just came out like 2 days ago. 2 or 3 days ago, it just came out. Now, another note on QuickBooks 2019. To the public, QuickBooks 2019 is not available, right? So you can't, as of today, September 6th, you can't buy it. So you can't buy QuickBooks Pro 2019, QuickBooks Premier 2019, or QuickBooks Enterprise 2019. Can't buy any of those. But to accountants and to pro advisors, it's available. So the QuickBooks Accountant Edition and QuickBooks Enterprise Edition of 2019, it's available, and it contains all the features that are going to be in Pro and Premier anyway. This year, they didn't add any features that are different in Pro, Premier, or Accountant. So all the Pro, Premier, Accountant versions across the board, they all have the same features, right? The same new features. And they added one little thing to Enterprise, which we're going to cover right after this. All right, let's see. Let's see if we have any polling questions while this happens. So it looks like most of you haven't started using it. Let's see. So is there a public date available for purchase? The answer is no. They have not given us a public date. If I had to speculate based on history, somewhere between middle of September to middle of October, all the items should be out. Okay, so all the items should be out. Okay. Okay, Sally is asking, if you wanted to make an inventory item zero out before you make it inactive, where do you do that? That would just be an inventory adjustment. So that's the answer to that. And there's no like new tool or anything that does it faster. It's the standard inventory adjustment. Okay. Eileen is saying it would be nice if there was an administrative tool where we can prevent a user from overriding that box and just not really being able to do that at all. Okay, Diana's saying that she got an email saying that September 17 is the release date. So I don't want to confirm that just because, but I'm just reading from the comments here. Okay, some folks are saying that they're going to wait until January or February once release 3 comes out more or less to start playing with it, and that's fair. A lot of people do that. A lot of people don't start working on it with release 1 right away. Although most enterprise people do, just because they get it automatically. So just kind of be aware of that. Okay, so the enhanced IIF import feature is actually pretty cool. What it does is when you import an IIF file, you will get, the first thing you get is a summary that says, okay, we were able to import so many list items, we were able to import so many transactions, but there was some that failed. This is something that you didn't get before. Before, when you imported an IIF, you basically had to cross your fingers, pray, 3 Hail Marys, and hope that everything came correctly. And if it didn't come correctly, you have to kind of inspect it manually and figure out exactly what happened, because you don't really get any feedback in terms of the IIF doing it right, doing it wrong, or having an error in the process. So now you get a log. You basically get a file that exports once you're done with the import. If there's an error, the file that exports allows you to review it. So now you can open the file and it will tell you each line item that wasn't imported because maybe you had the wrong account, or the account type wasn't there, or you're missing a field, or the customer wasn't there, that sort of thing. And the new system doesn't automatically create accounts for you, because in the old IAF system, if you had if the account didn't exist, if you had maybe a journal entry or something that affected an account, it would automatically create the account as a bank account, and it just creates a whole mess. So the new one at least stops it from creating if those accounts don't match. Now, a note that I will ask you, and this is something that some of you are going to be clapping on your side. I may not hear it, unfortunately, because I love to hear claps, is that the new import feature works in multi-user mode. So the new import feature works in multi-user modes, and that's huge because for multiple users that are working in multi-user mode that had to import IIFs, having to switch to single user was so annoying. So it does work. It does work in multi-user mode, but there's also you can also skip the new feature and still go to the traditional import. And I'll show you. There's a little message here that says import for me. I'll fix it later. I know the wording is a little bit weird, but This one says import it for me, fix it later. If you actually click on that, you skip the new error correcting feature and you go to the standard IIF import feature. And for that, you would have to be in single user mode. So I want to make sure that, so you still have the old IIF feature and you have a new feature, but the new feature works in multi-user mode. So that's what I wanted to mention with that. And that, to me, that's huge. To me, that's just a really, really big thing. One of the reasons why people would use a third-party software like Transaction Pro Importer or something like that instead of using IIF imports. Now, I have somebody asking what are IIF imports, and Sally, my answer is if you don't know, then you must be a happy person and continue to be happy and continue not to know what IIFs are for, because this is like a sort of an old system. It's an old import system to import data, and then in some cases, certain softwares export the data in IIF only. But Intuit stopped supporting IIF like in 2007. So I'm really surprised that they did this. But that multi-user mode is something that some people still use. So I'm not sure how many people still use IIF import. I probably should have done a polling question around that. But that's that. The other thing that they added, which I think is particularly valuable, is if someone, let's say, for example, if you look at this screenshot, let's say this employee only had 20 hours of sick leave or vacation leave, and you attempt to input 22 hours, it now gives you a warning saying, hey, are you sure you want to pay this person sick time? They don't have enough accumulated sick time. So it's just a little warning, and then you can hit yes or no. Okay. And then if you hit yes, it will accumulate, and notice that it will accumulate and now give you a negative, right? It'll say, look, now this person owes you a sick time because they used more than they were supposed to. So the sick and vacation time in QuickBooks payroll is actually very underused, but it's actually really good. It actually works really well. The accrual system, the way it works, a lot of people don't use it. And I think one of the reasons people didn't use it is because they weren't sure it was tracking it correctly. The other thing that they changed is they now changed how it looks like on the pay stub. Now the pay stub says current, and current means what you're using in that particular paycheck. And then year to date, that tells you all the accumulation. So now it separates how much you have accrued in every other paycheck, how much you have accrued in the current paycheck, and how much you have used, where the old version just had one line. So now it splits it up for you. So it makes it a little bit easier for the end user to know what's going on. A couple of other improvements just worth mentioning, I don't think we can get to too much detail on it, is if you're using Intuit Data Protect, which is, I think it's like $10 a month, it's an additional service, you can actually set up email notifications to give you a warning via email if something didn't back up correctly, and for whatever reason, why it didn't back up correctly. Before you didn't have that. So I have a couple clients that use Intuit Data Protect. They pay the $10 a month or whatever to get their files automatically backed up, and it stopped backing up like 6 months ago. And then their computer crashed, and they came to me and said, "Hey, can you help me restore it? I have the Data Protect, and when we downloaded it, it was a 6-month-old backup." And they were like, "I don't understand." And that was the problem. The problem is that there was no notifications letting you know if something is backing up correctly or not, or if it stopped backing up, if the schedule expired, something like that. So that's an additional service that Intuit charges for Intuit Data Protect that automatically backs up your file every day or whatever frequency you want. And now they have email notifications to let you know. They also improved the workflow of updating the file. So when you install 2019, there's only like 2 clicks to update your file, assuming you only have one file. So that actually makes it very easy for the average user that only has one company. And they have a new assisted company transfer feature to another computer. I haven't tested it, but from the looks of it, you click on transfer file to another computer, you put a USB drive, it saves like the installation of QuickBooks, it saves the company file, up to 3 company files. Then you go to the other computer, you put the USB drive, click a button, and it does everything for you. That's what I read anyway. But I really don't know. I just really don't know if how that works. but I read about it. This thing just came out. So this is what the email notification looks like when there's an error on getting your undoing the backup. So now you get an email saying, hey, by the way, we couldn't back up because whatever, right? We didn't have access to the server. There was not enough space on the computer. Whatever error caused it to do that, you will get an email notification. So that's actually, not sure if that's a new feature. It's more of a fix, really. Okay, so let's move to Enterprise, and we only got about 12 minutes left. And I don't know if we'll be able to get to the real big part, because this is probably the biggest of all the features. So we'll cover as much as we can, and then if we need to do another episode just to dedicate to the Enterprise, we'll do that. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so first, before we jump to 2019, it's important to talk about and recognize the mid-year updates, right? Because with Enterprise, they do now these mid-year updates that don't show up in the proper marketing of the 2018 version and end up showing up in the marketing messaging of the 2019 version. But if you're working with 2018 and you update it to the latest version, I believe is R7, you're going to have this new feature. So the first thing they added was a new system called Purchase Order Management that allows you to receive POs with a mobile device. And a mobile device is basically an Android that has the app installed in it. And let me see if I can show you that real quick. Let's see if we can get it going again. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to open up my Android device and show you what that looks like. And this new functionality with an Android device, it's new for 2018. But in 2019, or in this mid-year update, they added purchase orders as well. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like. So I'm just showing you, this is my Android. Okay. So I'm looking, this is an Android that I have in my hand. And now just going to show you on the camera here. Oops. All right, that's an Android device, right? I have it in my hand. And the way it works in a nutshell is, okay, the way it works in a nutshell is I can create purchase orders in QuickBooks if I'm using QuickBooks Enterprise. I can, once I know I'm receiving them, I can send it to a picker. So this is the picker. And the picker, which has the Android device in their hand, they would pick actually, let's do a receive. They would pick the open purchase order that's in there. They select the purchase order, and then they use this device to scan, barcode scan, or manually add, right, how many items they have received. And then once they click on receive, it will update QuickBooks. It will update QuickBooks the fact that those items were received. So that's the new Android device functionality. I'm going to be doing it a big disservice because I don't want to rush it. So I'll just quickly cover that, and then we'll see how deep we can get to it. And if we have to do an entire episode on that, which sounds like we're going to have to, we'll do that. So they added, so in 2018, before the mid-year update, they added the Android device with barcode capability from a mobile device. The one that they added in 2018 was only for picking. So you would use the unit itself for picking, and go to YouTube and look at my video on that explains the whole process. The new feature for mid-year 2018 and 2019 is also adding purchase orders in the process. Now they also added an enhancement where it will show you, there's a report that shows you when's the last time your employee got a raise. So if you're using payroll, you can see if there was a raise. It shows you exactly the entire history, and it shows you the exact date where there was a rate change in the paycheck. So that could be good for raise tracking, or it could be good to just double check to see if there's some fraud going on, people increasing some of their friends' rates or whatever in payroll. Now they also added support to 3 Bluetooth barcode scanners. Okay, so let's just show you the screenshot. So this is what the new PO management feature looks like. Okay, and I'm going to show you on the screen. So when you go into vendors, it's called Purchase Order Management Worksheet. And again, we're talking about QuickBooks Enterprise now. So any purchase orders that you create, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to create a purchase order real quick. So I'm going to create a purchase order. I'll pick a vendor here. I'll pick an inventory part. I'll put here, let's say 50. I'll click Save and Close. So what happens is when I go into the screen, this is my new purchase order management worksheet. This will tell me all the open purchase orders that are available. So I can pick any of these purchase orders and say, you know what, I want the Android device user, the guy in the warehouse, let's call it that, to go receive that inventory. So what you do is you click on send to device and you assign it, because you can actually have multiple people with these handheld scanners. You send it, you click on send. Okay, then you click OK. And as I mentioned earlier, you go in, the warehouse person goes into the handheld device. Okay, they hit refresh. It says that they are assigned 2 POs. Notice that it says it assigned 2 POs to them. It says it right here. Okay, they assigned 2 POs to me for me to receive. The warehouse user is gonna open the list, open the purchase order that they have to receive, and they can either scan the items in to receive them, or they can just click on it and manually add the number. And the reason why you can manually add the number or scan it is because if you have an Android device without a barcode scanner, you can still use it, so you can receive the inventory without literally scanning the barcodes. There's also a full quantity if you want to receive the whole thing, and then click. You can add a note saying 1 box is broken, right? And again, the purpose of this is that we are assuming that the people that manage purchase orders and accounting are in like one side of the building, and the people that deal with the actual boxes or inventory are in a different side of the building, and they want to create just a better system for communicating. So now the QuickBooks user is sitting back here, is looking at all the purchase orders that are available. Okay, eventually this is going to refresh and say that this PO has been fully received. Okay, let me hit refresh. It takes about 2 minutes because it actually works via Wi-Fi. So the device connects to the Wi-Fi and updates QuickBooks. So all this happens via Wi-Fi. So actually it happens just through the internet. So you can actually do this with remote locations. So you can have the warehouse that has inventory in a different country, even scanning the product while the QuickBooks user is getting updated. So as you can see here, it shows the PO, it shows the status. Look, this product has been received. Okay, and here's the note. See, one broken box. That's what we typed on the mobile device. And then from there, the QuickBooks user can complete the transaction, right? So that the person on the mobile device is not necessarily creating a bill or an item receipt. They're just notifying people that the product has been received. So now the QuickBooks user, the accountant, the person with rights to do so, is the one that ultimately creates the bill or the item receipt straight from here. So, and you can even use this tool without the barcode scanner. So if you're not scanning the product or anything like that, you can still follow the workflow through here. Okay. So that's just a really, really important thing. Okay, so let's see. I think we're almost out of time. So I wanted to at least cover a little bit of that new functionality. These are the new Bluetooth barcode scanners that you can use with your Android mobile device. Before they added support to these Bluetooth scanners, there was only one device you can use, which is the one that I have in my hand here, which is called the MC40, which is basically an integrated, integrated Android and scanner all in one. I don't know if you can see that correctly. So it basically has a barcode scanner right there and it's on one device. And this thing was like $1,000. So obviously they got some criticism saying, hey, I got to spend $1,000 per unit. So now you can actually buy a very inexpensive Android. They got Android phones for like less than $200 nowadays. So you can buy an Android phone and then get one of these Bluetooth scanners if you want to use that mobile feature as well. So this is what the employee payment adjustment report looks like. And all right, so let's jump into QuickBooks Enterprise 2019 new features. I'm gonna mention them real quick, and then we'll end the webinar. Let's call it officially. And then I'm gonna go a little bit long just so I can cover these things. So that way the people that have to live at the top of the hour, they still get the full education. But we're gonna demonstrate this feature on that over time, and then you can pick it up and watch it on the recording afterwards. So let me run a quick polling question just for the folks that have to jump off on that, and then we'll probably extend it a little bit long past top of the hour so we can cover the last enterprise features. While that polling question is up there, let's see. Somebody says, why did you buy one of those? Yeah, Intuit sent it to me for demo. So so I didn't buy it. I would not have spent $1,000 in that thing. Is it compatible with Apple or iPhones? No. So it's only Android devices. Only Android devices. Can you select multiple lines to pick to send to the device? Yes, you can batch send picking. Let's see. All right, let's see what other questions we have here. I have to go. Can I go? It's top of the hour. Yes. Yeah, you can go and still get your CPE certificate. We're going to go a little bit long just because there's just more stuff that we have to cover. Okay, so definitely not with the iPhone. Doesn't work with an iPhone, only Android. Okay, let's see. Okay, yeah, that's it with the questions that we have here. Let me go ahead and close the polling question. Remember, you need your polling question if you want to get your CPE certificate. So you need to answer that. Let me go ahead and close that polling question. And all right, so for the folks that have to jump off real quick, the next webinar will be on 9/20, QuickBooks Online for Real Estate Part 2, Investors and Lessors. Then will be October 4th, topic to be announced. Make sure you check out my podcast, Art of Advisory in Facebook, and also check out my value pricing webinar, www.valuepricing.net. It's really complete value pricing masterclass. And thank you, Avalara, for sponsoring the show until December. And make sure you check out QuickBooks Connect in November, biggest conference for QuickBooks, about QuickBooks, and continue the conversation in our Facebook group. It's top of the hour, so if you have to jump off, go ahead and do that. And we're going to go and finish up with the QuickBooks Enterprise features that we haven't covered. So for the folks who are staying, thank you. Hopefully I can add some value in the next 10, 15 minutes or so. So the largest of all the features for QuickBooks Enterprise, in my opinion, is this one that's coming up here. The pack and ship workflow added to the pick system. So what they've added for QuickBooks Enterprise, as I mentioned earlier, is the capability of using an Android mobile device to, and I showed you just now, to receive inventory. And in 2018, they had added the capacity to pick the inventory. So when something was ready to be picked, so we can pack and then ship it, you would use the Android device to indicate the warehouse personnel that you have to pick the inventory off the shelf. Now they added 2 additional statuses. So you send the product to get picked. Then once it's picked, you send it to get packed. Packed means put in a box, ready for shipping, and then mark it shipped. That way, the QuickBooks user knows what sales orders to convert to invoices. And if you don't work with inventory or e-commerce type companies that do a lot of shipping, this stuff would be irrelevant. But hey, what can you do? It can't satisfy everyone. So this is what the screen looks like, and I'm going to show you in QuickBooks on screen. The sales order fulfillment worksheet will show you all the open sales orders. It will tell you which sales orders haven't been touched, which ones have been sent to be picked through a mobile device, which ones have been partially picked or not picked at all, which ones were picked and sent for pack, and then which ones have been confirmed to be packed and confirmed to be shipped. So there's a whole bunch of status updates to sales orders. So basically, what the new feature entails is a whole bunch of status updates to the sales orders to kind of know exactly where all these sales orders stand. And I'm going to show you this in product. So I'm going to do the demo in product. And And the new tabs will basically allow you to choose which sales orders are now ready for shipping. This is really mostly like a shipping management type system to keep track of what needs to be shipped. It is one of the biggest feedback that inventory people have told QuickBooks in the past, that it's very difficult to know, what's an open sales order, what's shipped, what's pending to be shipped. That's usually a very manual process. So what they're trying to do with this is just going to enhance the feature so you can have better visibility over this. Okay. This is what the screens look like on the mobile device when you're marking something ready to ship and when you're packing. So this is the first screen on the left. That's the packing system, just like the picking, right? You pick the items and then you do packing, and then once you're gonna mark it ready to ship, you're basically going to give it the dimensions and the weight. And the reason for the warehouse user in the mobile device to give the packages dimensions and weight is if you have your QuickBooks linked to the shipping manager system that talks to FedEx, UPS, or US post office, it will transfer the weight and dimensions to it so it can calculate freight for you. So that's actually a huge feature. Before, that was always a manual process, and now during the packing of the products in boxes, the users can give that information, so the person that's printing the shipping label has that information available. And the other thing that it does is it takes the tracking number and puts it into the QuickBooks body, saying, here's the tracking number for that item, puts it back into that sales order. So actually pretty cool, because in the past, you didn't get that information where you get that tracking number pushed into the sales order. So now it has a little bit more workflow with the shipping mechanism, which is a feature that has been pretty much neglected for the past 8 years or so. It hasn't been changed. It's pretty much been functioning, but without any upgrades in the last 8 years or so. And then finally, you actually get a status update in the sales order that tells you this has been sent for pick, this has been packed, partially packed, or shipped, right? So it gives you all those status updates right on the sales order, so the user can know exactly what's going on with that sales order. So let me show you that on the screen here. So let me close the purchase order manager, and let's just close everything. And let's open up now the sales order fulfillment worksheet. So this is what the new screen looks like. I'm going to go ahead and create a new sales order to kind of show you how that works. So I'm going to create a new sales order. I'm going to pick a customer here. I'll pick an item. I'll put here 2. Okay, so I'm going to sell the customer Jose this item. I have to put a shipping address here in order for the packing system not to give me an error. So let me do an address here real quick. Okay, so I'm putting a shipping address there, and I'm going to click on save. Okay, so there's my sales order. This sales order has no status. So no status just means it's open. That means we haven't done anything with the sales order. If I go back into my sales order fulfillment worksheet, I'm going to hit refresh here. I'm going to see both of my sales orders that are open. Now I have a choice to take the sales order, and I can either send it for picking, or I can send it for packing. Okay, so we're going to follow the whole workflow. We're going to first tell the warehouse people, hey, pull it off the shelf. Okay, so that's picking. So we're going to go and click on send for picking. Okay, we can add notes. We can give it specific instructions how many to pick. By default, they'll pick all the ones that are there. I'm going to click on next. Okay, you can add a note saying, pack them tight, please. Right, whatever the note is, that's actually pretty cool. So you can actually tell people how to pack them. In this case, it wouldn't be packing. It would be maybe something like, I saw a few in the back room. Right. Remember, these are things that in warehouse type companies, people are screaming across warehouses, giving people instructions on how to do things. Right. Now we're trying to all keep it within the ecosystem of these mobile devices. So I'm going to click on send to device. And then I click OK. So now these are all sent for pick. So here on the pick tab, you're gonna see the two items that have been sent for pick. The most recent one that I created is this one right here that's on pick mode. I'm gonna go ahead and open my Android device and open up my app here. Okay, so I'm in the default screen. I'm the warehouse. Again, I'm the warehouse person that doesn't have access to QuickBooks. All that it has is this mobile device in their hand, right? They just have this mobile device in their hand. And okay, and they're gonna see that on their pick, 2 sales orders have been assigned to me. So I'm gonna click right there where it says pick, and I'm doing this on my mobile device. I'm gonna select the sales order that I wanna pick, and notice that there's my note. This is the note that the QuickBooks user put saying, hey, there's a few in the back room, giving instructions to the warehouse person on what to do. We'll click there on the item to pick. They can either scan the product, so they can sit there and scan the products. I'm gonna scan some random piece of gum I have in my desk here. Okay, it's gonna give me a warning that the product that I'm scanning is not the product on the sales order, and that's really the whole point, right? The whole point is that if people grab the wrong thing, if they're using the whole barcode workflow, that it says, hey, dummy, you grabbed the wrong thing. Don't try to ship the customer that because you're going to send them the wrong thing. That's what this system's all about. So until you scan the right one, you're going to get the right feedback, or the user can manually say, yep, I handpicked them. Maybe they don't have a barcode. They can actually manually type in there how many they're picking. They can add a note saying, let's put here, old version, right? Whatever that means, right? So the person saying, look, I'm sending the old version of it because we don't have any of the new versions, whatever. So it's communication that's happening between the warehouse person and the QuickBooks people, right? Whoever manages QuickBooks. So I'm going to go ahead and click on pick, okay, and then click on finish. So once the order has been picked, it drops off from the list of the warehouse person of what they have to do. I'm going to go ahead and click on refresh, and this thing refreshes by itself like every 10 minutes or so, but I usually just click on refresh. Notice that now the order has been marked as picked, right? Letting people know, the people that touch QuickBooks, that hey, this is no longer on the shelf. This is actually being staged somewhere for shipping. And notice that there's my notes, right? There's my notes that the warehouse people, I mean the person with the mobile device have put. So now the next natural step is, okay, now let's go send it to packing. So now you can either print the packing slip or be the pick slip. You can do any of these things from here. So and that's also pretty normal that we print the packing slip or print the pick slip if we're not going to use the mobile device. And we can print the packing slip because we're probably going to put this in the box somewhere, right? So you can do all that from here. And I'm going to go back into the dashboard here and click on refresh. Actually, I have to do one more thing here. I have to click on update sales order. And the reason for updating the sales order is because you now have to tell QuickBooks, and let me go back into the sales order, that QuickBooks, the sales order needs to say that the item was that was picked. Let's see, that should update. Yeah. So now it says it's picked. Notice that it says it's been picked, right? Again, letting people know that these items have been picked. So you update the sales order. Now you can do the next step, which I want to send it for packing. That means I want to tell them, hey, put it in a box for me. So I'm going to click on send for packing. I'm going to select the packer. You can also unassign it, and then everybody that has a mobile device can pick up any of them. So I'm going to say specifically who's going to pack it. I'm going to click on send to device. And this is going to look like a familiar workflow. Open up my app here. So now I have here, notice that it says, there's been a packing job assigned to me. So I'm going to click on pack. Okay, there's my job. It tells me the address of the product that I'm going to ship it to. So this is all for like putting it in the box and knowing where is it going to go. Okay, you're going to go to select the items, confirm or scan that they're in the box. You're going to hit OK. Then you're going to click on create package. That's just letting people know that I'm putting this in a box. I'm gonna put that was £5. 1 times 1 times 2. Okay, so I'm recording the dimensions of the box, and I'm gonna put here fragile, whatever, right? So let's say I wanted to add those notes to the shipping label. It would say they're fragile. I click on done, and I click on finish, and done. So now it's set up as packing. Now I'm gonna click on refresh here. It takes about a minute for it to refresh. Okay, let's go. Let's see what we got here. It should say packed, right? In theory. So that'll probably take a minute for it to update. Well, that should say packed in there. I'm not gonna sit there and wait. I mean, this is all happening through the web, and then finally, once it's packed, the next workflow is somebody's going to print the shipping label using the QuickBooks built-in feature, and then finally they're gonna go into marked as shipped. Okay, so once you mark it as shipped, okay, I don't know why it's not showing the pack state. Let me see. It says it's packed. You click on update sales order. Okay, so now it updated. Okay, let me go back to it. Okay, now it says packed. I just want to make sure because it does take I guess it takes like a few minutes to do it. So now the sales order is showing that it's packed. Okay, so now you know what the status of the sales order is, and then the person from QuickBooks at that point will either print the shipping label, right, using the built-in features, and stick the shipping label, and then once it's been shipped, they're going to click on marked as shipped, and they will click yes, and now the order will now be marked as shipped. If I go to my sales order, it says shipped, and then that would be the indication that somebody in QuickBooks has to now convert that sales order into an invoice, right? Because it's been shipped. Okay. Now I have one major criticism about this, and it looks like it held tight all together. And I did this on a live webinar. So by the way, that's a big deal, right? Because the technology guys usually are not that good to us when we're doing all these things live with an Android device showing on the screen. I mean, it's pretty amazing that this whole thing is coming smoothly. So you actually noticed that it was pretty smoothly. It's like a 5-minute delay between, probably a little bit less. In webinar time, it feels a lot more than 5 minutes between the time that it takes to update, right? Because it's all happening via the internet. My only criticism is that although I can see that that this status is shipped, although I can see that in the screen, there's no report that tells me the status of my sales orders. Like, I think this would be more complete if I was going into my open sales order reports, and maybe there would be a column here that gives me my pick, pack, ship status. That would be powerful. But for whatever weird cookie reason, the programmers decided that wasn't important or not a priority per se, although I did warn them that I would publicly criticize them for this, because the problem with any feature in QuickBooks, in my opinion, is if you don't give me a report, then the feature itself is useless. If I don't have an accompanying report to manage what's going on, to view it, it's pretty useless. It's not totally useless because I can see the status on the sales order and I can convert it at that point. But I would like to get a report to see all my sales orders that were shipped so I know what to invoice. The other thing that I would heavily criticize on this feature is there's no workflow to invoice straight from here. Like, it would be logical that one of the options here is, create invoice. Like, that would be logical, or something that says create invoice, something around here, or some batching feature that would create an invoice for all the things that were marked as shipped. You still have to go sales order by sales order. I convert it to an invoice one by one. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that, to me, just it's a little bit of an issue. And the last thing that they added, so get off my soapbox. So the last thing that they added was, and this is actually pretty neat. What happens is, anytime you give someone a permission in QuickBooks Enterprise that somehow gives the person access to viewing sensitive information like payroll, it's now marked. See, logically, when you give somebody permission to, company and financial or accountant and taxes, it doesn't explicitly say whether or not people can view all the transactions, including payroll. So now what they did is they added an asterisk to any transaction that would in fact give the person access to all the transaction information, including payroll, because that was one of the major criticisms, was that they were giving someone access to viewing certain reports, but they didn't want them to see payroll. Unfortunately, it's a little bit inclusive. Like there's some features that you have to give someone potentially access to sensitive information, like viewing, who got paid what, in order to see other things. So now they haven't fixed the problem of truly separating them or creating a really clear wall between who can view payroll and who can't. But now at least they're indicating the user when they're creating the roles that they can in fact view it with those little asterisks. And finally here is, I love this little chart, right? Especially for our Canadian and UK people, that tells us which of the features are available in each country. So in Canada, because we got a few folks from Canada here, the Invoice Tracker, it's available. Transfer credits is available. The bill pay features available. The robust IIFs, the inactive items on reports, and the new payroll permission. That's all available in the Canadian version. The pick, pack, ship is not available in the Canadian version. The new audit trail reduction is not available in the Canadian version. And reliable and sick pay trackers not available in the Canadian version. And I've never really met someone that uses QuickBooks Desktop in the UK. I wonder if we have one watching here or not, but that would tell you as well. So let's see. So we definitely went way over time. Let's see if we have any questions that I can answer at this point. We still have 300 people logged in. So somebody says, I am looking forward to the real estate class. Yes, agreed. Me too. Let's see what else we have here. The workflow needs to include the batch conversion info. Yeah, I agree with that. So I really think that the batch conversion to invoices and the report that shows me the status of the sales orders will make this feature a lot more complete. So thank you for that comment. Yeah, so I think a few people were agree with me on that. Somebody's asking, can I go straight from sales order to ship without going into picking or packing? I haven't figured it out. I have not figured it out. I don't think so. I think you have to go from ship to pick, then to ship at least. You have to. It does add that extra layer of complexity. Someone else is asking, can you print packing slips from the Android device? The answer is no. You cannot print a packing slip from the Android device. So what I would suggest is to have a internet-enabled printer, like an e-printer, and then have someone print from QuickBooks into the e-printer remotely into the warehouse. But the Android user cannot print packing slips, which, by the way, you need that. If you're going to separate the operations like that, you're going to need that. Let's see. Will pick, pack, ship work with assemblies? Yes. Yeah, it will work with assemblies, but you would have to have the product assembled already. So after you assemble, then you go. Okay, somebody says that the dimensions don't transfer into the shipping feature, only the weight does. That's interesting. I haven't tested it, but if it doesn't, that's kind of a glitch because the dimensions would be relevant. The other piece is that the dimension information is not anywhere in it's in some weird table, so it's not shown to the user. So it would be nice to also have that dimension and weight be transcribed into the sales order somehow. That would be pretty neat. Let's see what else we got here. I think that's it. I think that's it for the questions. Do you need the Platinum edition of Enterprise to get the pick, pack, ship? The answer is yes. You need the Platinum edition of Enterprise for the pick, pack, ship. Are there any features specific to QuickBooks Accountant that were released? No. So QuickBooks Accountant Pro and Premier and Enterprise all have the same features, with the exception of those pick, pack, ship, and mobile scanning that's exclusive to Enterprise. Let's see. Do you think that these features could overcome Fishbowl or the other heavy inventory add-ons for QuickBooks Enterprise? I would say no. I think that this is still like baby steps. I mean, this is not getting there up there with Fishbowl and Activate. I think it's adding some additional new things, but it's not really creating a high level of ERP type inventory workflow. Let's see. Do you have to have a mobile device in order to use the new pick, pack, ship? No, the answer is no. So you don't have to enable a mobile device. You can do that all within the software. So you can update the statuses within the software without the Android mobile device. Okay, I think that's it with questions. Again, in 2 weeks, we're going to have QuickBooks Online for Real Estate Part 2. I think I'm going to have Seth David in as a guest. I'll mention it now. So that should be a lot of fun because he's an expert on the real estate side. And for October 4th, I don't really know. It's still to be determined. And look, if you're getting into value pricing, allow me to like plug my my own my course here real quick. I'll show you here since we're in overtime. I can do whatever I want. So if you go to valuepricing.net, I have a new value pricing class called Creation of Options and Packages for your accounting services. I already recorded this. It was a 5-hour webinar that I recorded a couple weeks ago. So when you log in, you'll immediately have access to that webinar that was recorded. And also as an added bonus to that, I'm gonna go live on November 2nd. So after you had a chance to watch the long webinar and all the other videos I have in there, where we're gonna go sort of step by step into how to construct options. Like if you do value pricing, we'll go step by step on how to construct options, right? So how to put together a spreadsheet with all your packages, how to price them. We'll kind of talk about how to range the low option with the high option. That's up there. As a matter of fact, I have a preview of it in my YouTube channel. Again, I'm in overtime, so I can do whatever I want, right? So let's see. If you actually search for value pricing in the YouTube channel, and I think you have to search value pricing Hector. I uploaded a video that's kind of a preview to that right here. It's about an 18-minute video. So, and I'm also going to paste it in the comments here. If you actually go to that, I kind of walk you step by step. The video is actually an excerpt. It's not complete, but it gives you an idea for what the webinar is. It actually kind of tells you how to put that together and what each of the columns mean and that sort of thing. So that's a shameless plug to that. I mean, we have a lot less sponsors in QB Power Hour that we used to have before. So now we have to monetize in different ways, and creating premium content just seems to be the one that makes the most sense. So I went ahead and pasted the link to that preview video from my YouTube channel, where you can get an idea more or less of that. And if you are going to go to QuickBooks Connect, say hi, let me know to Michelle or I, let us know that you like QB Power Hour and give us some feedback. We'll obviously love to hear that. And that's it. I think that I've covered everything plus more, a lot more. So thank you for sticking a little bit extra. Make sure you join the Facebook group. Just search QB Power Hour, and that's really where we continue the conversations. If you have questions about this, ask it in the Facebook group for the benefit of everyone. Anyway, thank you very much and have a wonderful rest of your day.